Hi, everyone. I'm Regina Barr with the Women at the Top podcast series, and thank you for joining us today. With me is Chris Gosswiller, my longtime associate and organizer extraordinaire with Outsource Office. And today we're going to do something a little bit different. We want to talk about how to get ready to take a vacation so that when you come back, you don't have a vacation hangover. I think most of us know that there's a mad scramble before you leave, then you go on vacation, and then you come back and you're in a perpetual state of recovery, at least a week, if not longer. So, with that, I want to welcome Chris to our call today.
Thanks for having me, Regina. This is fun. I'm usually on the back end of this, so it's fun to be on the front side this time.
Yeah, I thought we would do something a little different. You and I talk a lot about these different topics and things. So, um, what are your thoughts on getting ready for vacation? Do you want to jump in or
Yeah, I've got
share?
first. I got something I want to talk to you about. It said,
Okay.
so Regina, what is a work hangover, and why is it so common after vacation?
Well, the way I just define a work hangover, if you will, is it's when you come back and you've been on vacation and you're exhausted, you're kind of walking around like a little bit in a zombie-like state, if you will, tired, and then all of a sudden you're overwhelmed with all of the to-dos that you have to get done when you get back. And it's just sort of like when you've been out and then you get up in the morning and you're having a hard time, right? Because now we have to transition from hopefully being on what was a restful vacation, maybe not, right? Because a lot of
Mhm.
times
Yeah,
our vacations are very action packed. And then coming back to the office when maybe we're not quite as rested as we had thought we might be. And then boom, you're thrown back into everything. Because it's really funny thing, nothing stops when you're on
no,
vacation.
no,
Isn't
I
that
agree
funny?
with that. Yeah, I do agree with that.
Have you ever experienced that feeling?
Um, I have. It's usually because I haven't taken the time before vacation to do some pre-planning and to make the communication with your clients and with the people that you work with ahead of time to let them know what your expectations are. And if you don't do that, that's when I find that you get in trouble when you get back.
Mhm. And you and I have been working together for so long that we're pretty well trained in, like when we plan
Yeah.
a vacation or something, we always let the other person know. And I literally, when you're out on vacation, I will block the time on my calendar and it says Chris out of office. And I put it at 4 a.m. And I don't put it's just so that visually when I go to my calendar, I will see that. And it's just a reminder. Or let's say it's 2 weeks prior and I'm planning stuff for that week and I click over to that week and I'm thinking about doing something, I say, oh, yeah, Chris is out that week. So if I'm going to do this and I need her help, I need to get on the radar sooner. So, anyway, I totally agree with you. A little pre planning can help. So, I want to ask you, you and I have known each other for a long time. And I would say in the circles where we have some common friends, that you've earned a reputation as a task tamer and a time saver. So I want to talk a little bit about that. Tell us what that means and how it relates to preparing for time off, sort of to avoid some of what we're talking about.
Sure. I've always been a planner and an organizer. It's just I've always done that through my family life and like volunteer organizations or with work. I always try to find ways to make my life easier, saving time, money, headaches. Learn from your mistakes, and and try to develop a process for completing your tasks. Just to save your time and headaches. Try to plan ahead, um, knowing now what could I do now versus what could I do when I get back. Find out what the deadlines are, and just have open communication with your clients or anybody else you're working with.
I think you hit on something that's really important there, and that's the communication piece, right? Sometimes we forget to let people know we're going to be gone. And I like to believe that people really don't want to disturb you when you're on vacation, and they don't want to add to your angst when you're trying to get ready and get out for vacation. But if you wait till the nth hour to let people know you're going to be out, sometimes I think we create our own issue, right? Because we
Yeah,
haven't done our part. So I'm big on the communication piece and letting people know in advance. It sounds like that you are too.
yeah,
So
definitely.
um, I think if people could focus on just communicating, and then some of what you're talking about, taking time to do some of the planning, I think that's
Sure.
key.
Yeah. So, Regina, what are some of your favorite go-to strategies for preparing at work before you take some time off?
Well, one of the things I do is I do communicate with clients. I do try to create some backup plans so that if I am out of the office, I have sort of a way to make sure that people get helped if I'm not available to help them. As you know, very often I will give you a number if I'm someplace where I don't have cell coverage, and I might direct people in my email or my out of office text message or something saying, I'm not currently available for immediate assistance. Please contact so and so. That individual you got to make sure is available
Yeah,
and knows how to triage, right?
yeah,
So I would always make sure that you have a number to reach me, especially because I do go to places sometimes where I don't have cell coverage, and sometimes I don't have text messaging unless other people have an iPhone like I do.
yeah.
Something else that I started doing back in the days when I'm in corporate, and I still do that to this day to the extent possible, is I block, if I can, the day before vacation. Even if I'm in the office, I put it as part of my out of office.
Hmm.
And I do the day that I'm due back. So if I get back on Sunday, my first day back in the office is Monday, I am still out of the office on Monday. I make my official day back in the office on Tuesday. And what that allows me to do before vacation is not to schedule meetings unless I choose to, like something may come up that I do want to take care of. It allows me to have a little more time to finish up last minute things without trying to stay up until midnight. I think we've all been there, done that. And,
Hmm.
at certain point in your career, it's not fun anymore. It's like I need my sleep, I got to tell you. So I don't want to be staying up till midnight working on something and then having to pack and things like that. And I do the same thing when I get back. I take that first day back as part of my out of office, even though I'm technically in office. And then I use that to catch up on emails, to kind of get back in. For me, I probably am going through mail as well as email. And the other thing is, if I choose to, like if there's something urgent that I feel like I need to address or have a meeting, if I choose to, I will have a meeting. But if I choose not to, I don't, because it's really more at my prerogative. And I find that easing out before vacation and the easing back in is very helpful for me in terms of getting things done. And like you, I am planful. I try to get people the things they need before I'm
Yeah,
out. And then I try to do that follow up when I come back to make sure that things have gone smoothly. Try not to leave a lot of things to chance. And I just find that that's helped make the taking of the vacation from a work perspective go a lot more smoothly. The one thing I do on a personal note when I'm getting ready for vacation, the one thing that I do not like doing is packing, especially clothes. And I find that what I try to do is to pack in the morning. So if I have blocked that day out and I haven't started packing, I will try to do that first thing in the morning when I'm fresh, because I have found that when I'm tired, I cannot make a decision, and then I bring twice as much with me. So if I want to
hmm,
be more efficient, I try to get that out of the way because it's something I don't like to do. So I don't know if you have something you don't like to do before you go on vacation or not, but that's my one little thing. If I can do that and get it out of the way, I find that anything else that's going on that day, I can take better in stride. Because if I'm packing at midnight, I tell my husband I don't want to hear anything. Whatever gets in the suitcase is going with, even if we have to pay extra for the suitcase. So
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you were saying about how you manage your work, but I think a lot of times the nature of the way we work, um, so many of us are working at a home office. So it's hard to separate that home from your business, from your work life and your personal life. Um, I find too that I like to have a clean house or as clean as possible before I go on vacation because I think the worst thing is coming home to a dirty house. When
Mhm.
you're tired, you've been traveling. I'd like to have a lot of those things in place. My husband thinks it's crazy. Like I want to have all the dishes done before we go and
Mhm.
dishwasher started, garbage emptied, check all the things around the house. And I'm always the one that has to do all the planning around the house things before we go on vacation too. Some people forget that that's a big part of it too, making all the arrangements. So you can actually go away and unplug and feel like everything's okay um, back at home.
Exactly. It's funny that you said that because most of the time, generalizing, a lot of the ancillary details do fall to the women. And,
Mm-hmm.
I bet if we asked our listening or watching audience, they would tell us the same thing. So we're the ones who are figuring out, does the dog need to get kenneled? Or if not, are we packing the dog medicine and the dog food and all of the little things that go with that? And then you amplify that if you have children, right? Or for me, I have a senior mom who doesn't drive, and so I have to make sure that while I'm gone, that she's stocked up with groceries, and if there's an event or something that she or a doctor's appointment that she needs to get to, that we've arranged for transportation. I also have to arrange for some backup. We've only had this happen once, but my mom did lock herself out of her home one
No,
time,
no.
and luckily, I had keys at my home that somebody was able to access. Since then, we've put something else in place to make it easier if that my mom could help herself, basically a garage door pad. She has a
Mm-hmm.
separate garage door separated from the home, and she could key it in and get keys and still get in her house. So, but it's all those little details, which brings me to my next question is when you think about vacation or planning to be out of the office for some reason, how far in advance should you start preparing your workload and things like that, especially if you're short on time? What should you do?
Well, if you know far enough ahead of time, I mean, you could, if you have a plan and you know all those processes of things that you have to do ahead of time, look farther into the calendar, a few weeks before, a few weeks after, what's going on that could impact that time off. If there's any things that you could get done ahead of time, I think the minimum maybe 2 weeks prior. Really, look at all the tasks, things that need to be completed. Um,
Give us an example. What would be something that if you were looking at, let's say you were going to go on vacation in 2 weeks, um, what would you be looking at and dialoguing about with your clients or whomever?
So some of the clients I have, including you or the other clients that I have, it's focused on events and different things. So if there's an event coming up and there needs to be communication with whoever's doing the event, and also any emails that need to be sent about the event or social media marketing and the digital marketing that you can pre-schedule. um, I try to go through and look at all of those and schedule those all the way out through the time that I'm going to be gone, and maybe even a few days that I've come back, so that I know that all of that's taken care of. That's the beauty of some of those things. You can pre-schedule
Hmm.
emails, you
Yes.
can pre-schedule social media, so that if you are planful ahead of time, you can do all of those ahead of time.
Yeah, I think again, it's being thoughtful and planful and thinking through what's coming down the pike so that you can take action now.
Yeah.
I don't know, you probably have heard me say this, but a lot of times when I'm working with clients, um, I will tell them, you know, 1 hour of pre-planning and pre-work actually saves you 4 hours at the back end. That's what the studies have shown. So I also correlate that on a smaller scale. So if you're not going on vacation, you want to figure out a way to utilize that. That, like, a lot of times 15 minutes of planning in the morning will save you an hour later in your day. So even when you're completely stressed out and you want to jump right in, taking 15 minutes. So when you look at it, like if you're going on vacation, taking an hour to think through a strategy for how you're going to manage that time away from the office will save you 4 hours at the back end. And think
Yeah.
about what that could mean for you in terms of enjoyment while you're away, and being able to let things, leave things at the office. And then also when you come back, hopefully that's going to have that impact. So again, 1 hour of planning could save you 4 hours at the back end.
Yeah, I do. I agree with that. That's a big thing is planning and communication.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
So, Regina, one of your favorite sayings is delegate or die trying.
Yes, it is.
What's the right way to delegate, especially if you're worried that things won't get done your way while you're gone?
So the first thing I want to say about delegating, in my opinion, delegating is not dumping. We don't wait till the last minute and dump things on people because you couldn't get to it or you couldn't be planful enough. I try never to do that. I try to own my lack of planning, right? What is that
Mm-hmm.
saying? Your lack of planning does not constitute an emergency on my part,
Emergency.
right?
Yes.
So I try to live that way, that I don't dump on people. So delegating to me is when I seek out assistance, whether it's from you or a family member or a colleague at work or whomever, depending on what area of the vacation you're looking at and working on. And I like to give the background and the context and allow that party to ask questions. Obviously, if it's something, a simple task, like if I said to you, Chris, hey, could you create a social media post for July 4th, which I think you're already working on,
I
then
am.
that's an easy thing, right? If it's
Yes.
something more complex where it's like, gosh, Chris, when I get back, I am going to be hosting a little get together for senior women or something like that, then there's more moving parts and I need to give you time to process what needs to happen. So if I waited till the day before, that's not a good way to delegate. Goes
Yeah.
back to what you said with the planning and the time. If I came to you and said, "Hey Chris, I'm going to be gone the week of July 4th, and when I come back, I'm doing a strategic planning session for a nonprofit that I'm involved with. Here are a couple of things that I'm thinking that need to happen. Um, what can you help me with? And what am I missing?" Right?
Yeah.
That's much different than if I said the day before, "Hey, I got this thing going on," because I got to believe that you're going to be a little upset with me. And then I'm going to be gone and you're going to have questions and you're not going to be able to potentially reach me, or you may not want to, right? You're like, oh, she's on vacation. I don't want to bug her. So again, when you delegate it, do it responsibly. Do it in a way that's fair to the party that you're asking to help you, and do it in a way that sets them up for success so that they can help you be successful. And the other thing I want to say about delegating also is when you delegate, you do not give up responsibility for the task. It's still your job to sort of shepherd through whatever it is that you're asking somebody to help you with. So, that means if you haven't done your part, then yeah, you might have to check in on your vacation. So again, the more pre-work you do, the more planning you do before you leave, the more likely you're not going to have to do a check-in or get an urgent phone call or an urgent text or email or something. And it'll make it that much smoother. What do you think? What, from a delegation perspective? Because you know that I try to delegate as much as I can.
Yeah. I think it really comes down to how you're let them, like any kind of communication, um, and what the expectations are
Mm-hmm.
for when you're going to be gone. And I agree with everything you said about that having that plan in place is really key.
I think it's also key to know the person you're delegating to, right? Some people, like I'm a little more, I don't know, I hate to use this term, but fly by the seat of my pants, right? Like I'll have a certain level of a plan and then I operate, out of my head, or I just do things just in time, and I can function that way. But I would say your personality, like I always joke around that when I think I'm all proud of, like I'll have like a little task list and a plan, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a rock star. And then if I send that to you and I get it back from you, it's like so much more detailed. And so if you know that you're working with someone that needs the detail, then you got to find a way to provide the detail. So it's also knowing that audience. And of course, I do so much work with coaching and assessments and things that over the course of that part of my career, I have just really made it my mission to try to put myself in other people's shoes and act accordingly. Now, having said that, I'm a human being and I'm not always perfect. And sometimes things go sideways and I can't always do that. But like when I've been working with someone, as long as I've been working with you, we give each other a lot of grace, right? And I think that's what's
Well,
important
and
too.
I think too that I always joke with my husband. Sometimes I live in the weeds, and I'm always the one that comes up. Oh, what about this? Well, what about that?
Hmm.
It does frustrate him at the beginning, but he knows that I'm thinking of all of the little details, and he lives in the big picture. He doesn't
Yes.
even think about any of the what ifs and what if
Yeah.
this happens, and
That's
you
why
have
it's
to
so
have a little
important.
bit of give and take with that with people that
Yeah.
you work with. They
Yeah. And,
complement each
and I'm
other.
sure over time you have learned to let some of those minutia go by the wayside and really focus on the really important stuff too, because obviously you've been happily married for a long time. And you know what? You and I have been together for a long time working together. So, and I'm probably a little bit more like your husband, but yet you and I work really well together. We know how to, I think we very seamlessly hand off and pick back up. And
Yeah,
I think that's just, we have the blessing of being together for a long time.
yeah.
So I want to talk, oh, go
I was
ahead.
just going to say we're celebrating 33 years tomorrow on our
Oh my
anniversary.
gosh, congratulations. That is wonderful. So I want to ask you, because we're talking a little bit about seamless handoffs, right? But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it doesn't always go seamlessly. And something also that's important is setting boundaries. And sometimes I don't always like that, use that term, because sometimes I use that when I'm relating to my mom, like I have to set boundaries. I like to say I have to create balance. And
Mm-hmm.
so, how do you set boundaries or create balance when it comes to putting those things in place with your clients before you leave?
Um, it's setting up letting them know far enough ahead of time that I will be gone, letting them know what um, what kind of communication that I have put out to let people know that I'm gone and what is expected.
Okay.
That, for an example, the way we are, we're tied to our phones. No matter where we are, people know how to get to us and how to communicate with us, whether we like it or not. Um, but I also say too that I will not have access to emails, so they know that even though they think that, oh, I can still contact them, that I might get a text, but I may not answer right away,
Okay.
um, or I'll say I'm on vacation. Who's going to have to wait till I come back? You really have to protect your time.
Yes.
Um, so another thing that I have done in the past, and it's the way we vacation.
Okay.
Sometimes we vacation, and because my husband is he can't unplug. He just physically he's got a personal phone, and he's got his laptop, and he's got his work phone, and I always joke that we like to go on cruises because that is the only way
Yes.
that he cannot actually communicate with anybody at all. So that is physically, I have to physically like take that away from him. He doesn't get the Wi-Fi plan.
Okay, so you don't just have to go on a cruise because I actually have like my cabin, we don't have cell phone or texting capability.
Mhm.
Unless somebody does have an iPhone, they can text me. So I'm gonna move us ahead. I'm gonna ask you, what do you do if clients try to reach you anyway? You just say not available?
I
Like,
don't answer right away.
okay.
Um,
I'm just thinking to myself, my God, I hope I haven't tried to reach her on vacation because
no,
she's probably gonna
I
out
try
me
not to.
right now.
You're good about it. I mean, I try not to answer right away because I've told them
Okay.
ahead of time I'm
That
not going
you're,
to be
yeah.
available, and so that means I'm not available, and I'll try to gently remind them that I
Right.
do
Well,
not have.
that's where if you do put something on you're out of office for email, that's easy. I'm currently out of the office. Be back on whatever.
Yeah,
Texting, you can also do that, but it's not like you want to scare off your family and friends. So it might be something like if this is work related, please know that I'm away and will not be responding until XYZ.
I've never
Right?
tried that with my cell phone. I'm going to have to look for that
Yes.
feature.
Now, what's interesting is one of my colleagues at Keller Williams, which is my real estate business, took a vacation. They were celebrating an anniversary, and I think it was 30 years. And she literally, I can't believe it, but she took her email off of her phone for that week. And I was like, wow, I'm like, that's awesome. But I was thinking to myself, like, gosh, I don't know if I could do that. But talk about, and then it's easy to add back on when you get back.
Yeah,
But that to me is like, wow, that's an amazing way to completely unplug. So I give her kudos. And she said she
yeah,
had the most amazing time away with her husband without having any intrusions or interruptions to that important family time because at the end of the day we all hopefully are working hard, but we're not working just for the sake of working. We're working so that we can do these other amazing things for our families or with our families. So
yeah.
anyway, so should we start talking a little bit about top tips?
Yeah, that's let's do that. So Regina, what are your top tips from coming when you come back from vacation so that you're not overwhelmed? I know you've talked about a few of them, but do you have something that's like your most important tip that you can?
So a couple of things that I do, and it might sound a little crazy, but I find I try to start planning what my next little trip or vacation is going to be
Mm,
because it's kind of like when you're in the throes and maybe some of the chaos of returning, coming home and all the things that need to happen. And it just always seems like it's like the whole week is thrown off. Just knowing I have sort of what my next thing is going to be planned, it gives you kind of something to look forward to. The other thing is I do try to take time for myself. Like I do like to walk. So I try to make sure that I'm getting myself up. I do a long walk early in the morning, like between 5 and 5:30. I try to make sure that I incorporate that into my day. It's my time walking my dog. That's also like I do a lot of prayer and reflection, meditation, attitude of gratitude type of stuff. And that really helps to settle me into my day. And then, of course, towards the end of that, towards the end of my walk, I might be thinking forward into, well, what do I have going on today without looking at my phone? It's just more me walking, enjoying nature. Um, Getting my dog to do his business is part of that,
mhm.
but just
Yeah,
it's really like a free floating time. I don't listen to podcasts or anything. That's my time. So that's one of the things that I do. I also try to make sure that I'm taking care of myself, that I'm eating healthy. Um, I'm a plain yogurt, Greek yogurt, nuts and fruits kind of gal in the morning that, I'm having that and not grabbing junk, right? Because I just really setting myself up and then making sure that I take breaks. I do try to drink a lot of water. And sometimes when I'm busy, that for some reason I just don't do it. So I try to make sure that um, I'm doing those little things to take care of myself and getting myself back into the day. And I find that really helps me to transition a little bit more effectively. And then also not working till midnight trying to catch up. It didn't get backed up in one day. It's not going to get caught up in one day either. So you have to give yourself that grace to kind of pace yourself over the time. So what do you do?
Um, I try to, like I said before, I try to, take care of myself, eat right. You said, I try to find something fun that I like to do. I've been kind of getting back into some crafting things that I like to do. I do some just sitting outside and enjoying the outside. Maybe bring a
Yes.
book with me, just to take a little bit of a downtime. I take my dog for a walk, like you said too. I just enjoy the neighborhood, and I'm checking out everybody's landscaping.
Yes.
They're doing their landscaping. What plants do they have in their front yard? Because we're going to start a landscaping project at our house. So I'm checking out the whole neighborhood and what they've got.
Yeah, that's great.
Um, sometimes I just even get in the car. I sometimes because my husband and I both work from home and have home offices. Sometimes I just need to get out of the house. I go get in the car. I maybe go to Hobby Lobby and just walk around and look at things just to
Yeah. I call
just to
that a
get out
creative
of the house.
timeout.
Yeah. Sometimes my husband will come by too. He goes, "I'm just going." I'm like, "Where are you going?" I'm just gotta go.
Yes. I
Or,
call that taking a creative time out, right? It
mm-hmm.
pulls you out of whatever the day to day is. And, it's funny because I have gone to Hobby Lobby myself just to see kind of what's out there and what's new. Or, like Ampersand, which is a local um, kind of higher end place for paper and cards and
Yeah,
home novelty items. So sometimes I go up to the greenhouse, right? Gerton's greenhouse is what we have locally, but
yeah,
every community has a greenhouse, and just walk around and see, what seasonal plants there are. And, they're always front running. So right now I'm starting to see a lot of fall stuff. So
yeah,
I'm like, oh my gosh, it's midsummer or early summer, and they're already transitioning. And so just again taking that kind of creative timeouts, something to just get your brain to rest and relax from whatever the day to day is. So,
yeah, yeah.
well, I think we're getting close to winding down on time. What else? Any last tips or questions or anything you want to talk
Um,
about before we have to sign off?
I just think a lot of it comes down to really clear communications, clear expectations. The nature of how we live, it is really hard to unplug because we are really tied to our cell phones. So if you can find a way to manage that while you're on vacation, maybe lock it away in your hotel room safe for a certain number of hours a day. I mean, because I like my cell phone to take pictures too. So when I'm on vacation, I want to do it because I'm
Hmm.
always snapping pictures. But maybe there's a time where you just put it away and I'm going to try to do that, is just have just lock it away and
I think
have
that's a
that
good plan.
completely, and immerse yourself in your environment of where you are and really enjoy, and not be like, if you get you get your alert or your ping and something's coming through, and putting that
Hmm.
completely away.
Now, this might seem a little bit out of what we were just talking about, but sometimes if I do know there's a lot going on, I will set an expectation that I will check in to emails once while I'm out, and it's usually right smack in the middle of the vacation, because it allows me to not be anxious that things are
Mm-hmm.
piling up. And it also allows people to know that if there is something urgent, that I will at least put eyes on it, at least on that one day. And if I'm taking a whole week off, that's usually going to be the Wednesday that I'm going to pop in and respond. And then I'm back out again because I do want to be away. I don't do that always. It depends on what time of year it is and what is truly going on. Because I
Yeah,
do have two separate businesses, and sometimes you just can't always be 100% away. Like sometimes you do have to monitor some things, and that's just the reality of being a solopreneur. In the corporate realm, hopefully you have more backup and support than perhaps just being a one person shop.
yeah.
And that helps, setting those expectations, hopefully then help that out. So, Chris, I think that's all the time we have today. So, I want to say thank you so much for joining me and having a different conversation. I think sometimes it's nice to switch things up. I know for me, doing something a little different also energizes me. So, thanks for joining me. And to those who are listening and watching today, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks.